Everyone's week is going well so far. I know next week is a short week because of Thanksgiving. Hope you have some fun plans. Hmm. Gonna get started in the next 3 minutes. We're just gonna give the opportunity for people to join, and then we can get started. While you wait, some of you, if you need to get some coffee, because I know it's early, or tea, or anything you need to do. To get started. Once we start, I'm going to start off with some housekeeping items um, from the Washington State Health Authority, and then we'll dive in. But I want to give it some people really join at exactly 8:30. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Mandaya Nuhu-Sulemana, and I'm one of the senior training and consultation specialists with the Integrated Employment Institute within the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions with Rutgers State University. I just want to welcome everybody for attending. It's really early, and I understand. So I just want to first off start off by going over this welcome. Today webinar is hosted by DBHR through the Washington State Health Care Authority. So this is an interactive training, and we encourage you to ask questions and participate throughout this session. Um, Another housekeeping items is on note about artificial intelligence. So please note that the use of automated note-taking bots or similar tools during Washington State FCS events or meetings require prior approval. So unauthorized use of such tools is prohibited and to ensure the privacy and confidentiality of all attendees. Also, any recording that is created through AI is not recognized as an official recording of this session. We reserve the right to exit trainees from the training if they are using AI to take notes without prior approval or using AI to record the session. And the final housekeeping items is that all the training materials will be put in the chat today, and you could get the recordings, access the recordings on the Foundational Community Support YouTube channel approximately 2 weeks after, today. So any questions? All right. So just I think I gave a brief description, intro about myself. So I want to acknowledge Dr. Janice Osler because she's the soft skills curriculum developer, which utilizes the Boston University direct skills teaching approach. She's the professor that serves as, and also serves as the director of the master's program in our department. And she has done some great, work in the mental health field. So today, our training objectives will focus on defining the skills of conversing with others, exploring the benefits and scenarios of when to use the skill conversing with others. And mostly when I'm talking about conversing with others is teaching the individuals that we support in the community, right? So our clients with mental health or even developmental disability. So it's us teaching them these soft skills. And thirdly, to apply skills and strategies and how to teach the skill behavior. So the overall skill is conversing with others. And to achieve the overall skill, we have 4 critical behaviors: choosing topics for conversation, demonstrating interest in what others are saying, changing the topic, and finally concluding the conversation. So we're going to dive into each one of them. So I want to, before we get into today's training materials, I would like us to take a moment to reflect on, just do a quick warm-up activity. Feel free to unmute or put in the chat, but it would be nice to hear everyone's voice. We're a very small group today. How comfortable are you with starting a conversation? So how comfortable is everyone here starting a conversation? So on a scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is low and 5 is like, high, 5 is like, I don't have any difficulty starting a conversation, and 5 is maybe very high. I do have, difficulty starting a conversation. So where would you assess yourself? Okay. So Alex said it depends on the situation, but typically 4 to 5, that's very okay. So sometimes difficult, you're in the mid, okay. Anyone else? And you know what? Feel free to unmute this yourself and share. Okay, I'm seeing depends on the staff and the situation, 3 to 5. With people I know, 5, okay, and strangers, okay. So with strangers, between 2 and 3. So it depends on the person. You're usually, that is so true. So again, it depends on the situation. The reason why I asked this question is because let's think of our individuals. We may be experiencing with our family members, we're so comfortable that it's not difficult, right? So, and with our, maybe colleagues or, strangers, it may be a little challenging. So I like to see that there's a consistency in that people are saying it depends on, if on the situation, then the number changes, which makes sense. So now think of our individuals who may not have these skills, right? Some of our individuals we've worked with can really talk, right? So I want us to think about in the context with our individuals, but is the conversation they're having appropriate, right? And another one, I want us to all kind of, make it fun and share something. What is your go-to for a conversation starter? What is that? What do you use to kind of break the ice? So I know for me, if I go somewhere that's new to me, I'm going to say, hello, how are you? Then I'm going to pick something. Oh, did you see the traffic? But I know that's because I'm feeling nervous. So the way I handle it is I talk. Like I come up with stuff like for a conversation. Anyone wants to share what their conversation starter is or an icebreaker? Mine is asking people how they're doing. Feel free to unmute. Yes. I think I heard a voice. Go, Alex. I saw. I'm sorry, Alex. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. I heard somebody else before I said anything. That's why I remuted. I typically do the same. I say, "Hey, how are you doing?" Or if it's around like an event or something that like a hobby-based event, I'll be like, "Oh, how long have you been doing this?" Or do you come here a lot? I think the thing that's interesting is just how dynamic that can be, or just how different it can be each time depending on where you.
That's so true. Thank you so much, Alex, for, sharing and unmuted and share. Anyone else? What is your go-to? I know most of people is either hi or some people you may have something else. Some people are like such social birds that they can break any ice. Like they do such a great job with that. Anyone? Okay, I see more in the chat. I see tried and true asking about the weather is good. Yes, yes, the weather is a good thing. The weather, traffic. So what are you here? Like if you meet in a, like a conference or something, trying to understand maybe what they're so this is all about us as practitioners. So I just wanted to do a warm-up activity. Thank you so much everyone for participating. So now what are skills, right? So I just want everybody to bring, to your focus that when I'm mentioning skills here, we're referring more about behaviors, not attitude. So things that we're able to be able to see. The ultimate focus is when we are talking about behaviors, we're talking about skills, we're talking about behaviors, ultimately has to do with the client, the consumer's goals, right? So they're actionable steps that the consumer is actively doing to achieve their desired overall goal, right? So these behaviors are measurable. You're able to see it. For example, when we say, oh, I have excellent communication skills, we would not consider that necessarily like a, a behavioral skill because it's so broad. Communication skills, what does that look like? It looks like everybody can define it differently, depending on culture context, depending on, so many other variables that other people can define what communication skills look like. However, when we mention communication skills, we're referring to conversing with others. So that in a social setting. So we're able to look at it and measure it. Is the person doing these? Does this look appropriate in this social setting? Right. So it's observable. Another one is how do I, for example, with our clients, how do I request a last minute time off? How do we help them understand that skills are specific relating to the behavior? So it is detailed. You don't want to just make it so vague. So we focus here on skill development because people with severe mental health conditions often do not learn these basic soft skills, right? For example, how to deal with a situation at work, how to request accommodation, presenting qualifications. These are all skills that it's crucial that if we are able to empower our individuals with, it would be beneficial to them. So a skill, when you think about a skill, it has various components, and as you can see on this slide, a skill it has to be behavioral and observable, right? So a skill must be behavioral and observable, purposeful, generalizable, compound, standardized, and stable. So in essence, what this means is that demonstrating interest is it's an effective skill because it meets all these critical areas of behavioral is actionable. So when we are communicating, we're leaning forward. Um, we are nodding our head. So it's someone, if someone is showing interest about the topic someone else is talking about, right? We can see it. They're leaning in, they're nodding their head, they're responding, they're using reflective um, listening skills. However, if someone is not interested, we're able to also observe what that looks like. So A skill that focuses on demonstrating interest, it's observable, right? Because you can see what demonstrating interest looks like, right? So that can also vary, also cultural based. Some people here, we may think that when someone is paying attention, they have to make that eye contact compared to when someone, we, in certain cultures, when an adult is speaking, you can't look directly in their eye because it's considered disrespectful or someone in authority. So it can also look differently, right? So we have to define it in what the client's environment looks like for the individual, right? And how to help them translate that, maybe, learn the social norms in the current environment that they are in. So that work culture. So now let's talk. So basic concept of direct skills teaching. So the direct skills teaching has it's observable, laser focused, breakdown, knowledge base, and high impact. So what does these five elements define? So it's basically a method of, used in psychiatric rehabilitation and vocational service counseling to ensure that a behavior is taught systematically and there are results. The results are observable long term. So you can see if the person is actually executing the skill well or not, and how and where you're lacking, and how to fill in those gaps, right? So, direct skills teaching is about teaching highly relevant, measurable skill at a time, broken down into simple steps. So, an example of observable would be the client uses a moderate, even tone and maintains direct eye contact while speaking. So you're able to observe what moderate looks like, what the even tone sounds like, right? The direct eye contact, we're able to observe all of that while speaking to either you, while speaking at a job interview, right? It's laser focused. So the training must concentrate on only one skill at a time. We don't want to make it too complex because we know with our individuals, sometimes they do have difficult time comprehending information that is too complex and too overwhelming, and we don't want them to give up, right? So we want to make it once, we want to be able to focus on one skill at a time to be able to change the behavior. So example is the entire 30 minutes of the session is dedicated to only learning how to use I feel statement when you or I need kind of script, right? And so it does not cover the whole negotiation or anger management. So if you're trying to go, the behavior you want to change is maybe someone's anger management. We are not trying to overwhelm them with everything that falls under anger management, right? We want to break it into specific, maybe 5 or 4 to 5, not even more than 5, 4 to 5, if I would say 5 the most, steps, and teach each step separately, right? And we're going to go more into that soon. The next one is breaking down. So the skill must be easy to learn. So that was what I was just talking about, breaking down the steps and not making it so complex. So the next one is the knowledge base. So you currently know about the skill, so the information you have about it, and executing the behavior. So for example, understanding the difference between a passive behavior, so an avoiding issue, and aggressive behavior where the client is attacking a person because they don't know how to effectively use their words, right? And it's high impact. So the skill must be crucial, highly, um, to be able to leverage the behavior that directly affects the client's uh, ability to secure and maintain their desired role. So, what would that look like? So, making sure that the client has boundaries, pays respect, being able to reciprocate in conversation. Like if the client is feeling burnout, they have a way to be able to communicate it. So, the skill directly leads to clients receiving fair pay, right? So, if they communicate effectively, the goal is if it's getting the same pay everybody else is getting, that's how to do it effectively and not a way that's going to get them fired. Any questions or any inputs? Feel free to add on to this. If you have any input, please feel free to unmute, share any experiences that you've had. That would be excellent too. So the direct skills teaching has 5 elements to it in teaching a skill. So the Boston University skills teaching approach says when you're teaching a client a specific skill. So for example, you have a consumer who wants to be a receptionist but doesn't know how to answer phones, right? Or wants to work at the cash register but has difficulty learning the process of the whole cash registering task, right? So what do you do? So if the skill is, so you want to define, first you want to name the skill. So their name of the skill will be learning the cash register or learning how to answer phone calls, right? So you clearly want to be able to define it. So when we're teaching our consumers a skill, it must include that concise label and clear definition of the behavior. So we want to also explain the positive benefit. We also want to provide a sequential list of concrete actions for performance, right? We also want to specify to the real life condition in which they're going to be applying the skill. So the definition, so you want to come up with the clients, how would they define the skill that you're going to learn together? Like teach them. What is the benefit to them? So example, presenter qualification gets you being able to, the definition is being able to um, speak about your strength and your experiences and how it relates to the job that you're applying for, right? So the benefit of that is hopefully to get the job. The benefit is to get that job. And the list of key behaviors, what would that look like, right? And finally, where can that skill presenting qualification, where could we use it? We could use it in our personal life, we could use it at a job interview, and we could use it at going when we are going to we're applying for college and we want to use that skill as well, right? So there are several performance conditions on that. Any questions? All right. So I'd like us to practice together on writing down all. So we're going to take a little time here for this activity. Um, so we're not going into any breakout rooms. We're doing it here as a whole group. So I want everybody to take a moment. So we're going to come up with steps to complete, like we're teaching a client or a consumer, John, how to organize a nursery classroom, right? Based on using the 5 elements of Boston University skills teaching. So first you want to come up with the name of the skill. Then we want to define the skill. Then we want to discuss, you can put 1 or 2 benefits of learning the skill and list how, you're going to teach the behaviors for this skill. And finally, what scenario? We're going to do it together, but I want to everybody can take a minute or 2 to think about it and then we can discuss it together. So we're just going to take a minute or 2 or 3 to, think about how would you organize this if you're actually teaching this to our clients. You heard she got hired, you guys are excited, but she's overwhelmed because the previous teacher before her didn't organize the classroom. So now she has to organize the classroom. So what would be the name of the skill you would give this task? So feel free to unmute. So some of you could still say it can be organizing a nursery classroom can be the name. But yeah, so I gave you that, but you can change the name and then I can hear from anybody that's comfortable in sharing. Anyone? Is everybody thinking about it? I mean, I'm not rushing you, but I just want to make sure if anybody has questions, if anybody wants to share, they feel like I got this, that would be awesome because guess what? I'm learning from you as well. Right? We're all learning from each other.
I'm
Okay.
struggling. I'm struggling with this example because it's more like a task rather than a skill. Like when I look at like list or the key behaviors and the scenario of when to use the skill, it's kind of like, well, once it's organized, right? Like, I mean, I guess you do it again at some point, but if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yes, it does, Christy. And I'm very appreciative that you brought that up and provided that feedback. I do agree. Here is a task. So it's a task, a skill of organizing, right? So even though it's a task, the main skill is organization,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
So you're using you're teaching the individual organizational skills, but they're going to translate it into keeping a class, organizing a classroom, right? So
Hmm.
each person may
I'm
has
not
their
sure I know everything that goes into organizing a nursery classroom, but I mean, I'll give it a
okay,
shot of naming the skill as, yeah, organizing the classroom, I guess that this person's going to be in charge of.
okay,
Um,
excellent.
and so definition of the skill is, um, like, putting everything in its place so that it is visible and where, where people would need to use things, maybe putting things on, like art on the walls or um,
Excellent.
toys in their place, or is that, is this
Yes,
close?
yes. So you're talking about
And
the
if,
ability
oh,
to
go ahead.
clean, label,
Yeah.
strategically arrange. Yes, you are. Excellent, Christy.
Okay.
So
Benefits of
much.
learning the skill is that, well, it's part of your job and, um, to make it easier if everything's sort of in its place,
Yeah.
it'll make it easier for you on a day-to-day basis to, find the things that you need to find, and for anybody that's a helper in your room, for them to find what they need and access it. Um, List of key behaviors. Um,
So that was
I
steps.
guess
That would be mhm.
sorting and labeling.
Excellent.
Um, Maybe having, getting storage containers for things. Um, I'm
That's
not sure what
yeah, you
else, but
got it. You did it. Yeah. Declutter and sort, clean, strategic plant placement, label. You wow. Thank you so much, Christy. You got it.
yeah.
Anyone else want to add on to what Christy said? And you feel free in the chat or unmute, right? So Christy gave us all the elements to it. So the benefits also is trying to reduce anxiety and increase focus, right? And also it promotes independence. So when we know everything, for some people, everybody in what is organized, some people can have a whole desk of clutter and you can approach them and they can find you what you're looking for. And it works for them, right? And other people, they would like, I cannot focus if my desk is a mess or just the house is not the way I want it. So organization helps me to stay focused and to make, and I feel happy, right? So it enhances safety for a classroom. We want to think about that safety. So one of the benefits is enhanced safety. The children are not tripping and falling, or they're not mixing things, and saving time. So thank you so much, Christy. I think you covered all the areas. And if anybody has anything else to include, I want to give everybody, the opportunity to share. I don't want to miss anyone's. Um,
Safety is an important one that you added, so thank you. That was good.
thing. Yeah, safety definitely, and saving time. Right, we know when things are organized, we are not spending so much time looking for things. We know that what do we hear is organization means everything has its place, right? All right. So now today our focus is going to be on conversing with others, which is a skill that some of our individuals either do very well in or some of them don't, right? So when we say conversing with others in the skill acquisition context, we mean engaging in a balanced, reciprocal, and socially appropriate exchange of information, thoughts, feelings, and with one or more people. So some of our individuals can have a conversation, right? But some of what they're sharing is may not be appropriate for work, which can get them fired, right? There's a client I worked with when I worked as a job coach or employment specialist. It depends on where they call it differently. But there was a client that had difficulty. She just was very explicit about, her body, like things like that. So that was nobody wants to, oh, that's not appropriate for work, maybe at home with your, friends or people who want to hear, but it's uncomfortable for a work setting, right? So for example, engaging in a balanced, reciprocal, socially appropriate exchange of information, thoughts, and feelings. So compared to if somebody was not, so some people know when some of our clients either speak, don't even have a conversation at all, or don't to with anybody because either they're shy or it's just their personality, right? But it's everything has everything in a balance. So in we're going to use the 5 elements to conversing with others. The 5 elements of it is the first one, conversing with others, is the name of the skill. And the definition of the skill is that conversing with others means engaging in that verbal reciprocal exchange of thoughts, ideas with other individuals. Um, the benefit is to help socialize with peers and others. So that's what we are trying to have our individuals do. Not only peers, conversing with others is good at work, right? But not too much that you're not doing your job. You're just trying to help them have that balance. It's not too good to be all reserved. You're not speaking to anybody. Even if you're just saying, someone had mentioned earlier in the chat, even if it's only about the weather, you're just saying, how is the weather? How do you, oh, today's cold or tomorrow, like those kind of conversation. So the skill behavior for this conversing with others there are 4 main areas we're going to focus on, which is choosing topics for conversation, demonstrating interest in what others are saying, changing a topic, concluding a conversation, and finally, what is the performance condition for this skill? So when it's when they're in social settings with their peers or in cafeteria during their lunchtime, right? Any questions? So I want us to reflect as our, clinicians. So this is all about us before we move into our individuals again. What are some reasons and benefits using this skill? Either with your clients or just your peers, of conversing with other peers. I mean, what are some of the benefits? For some people, what could it be? It could be coordinating services, right, with other clinicians. But what would you say are some of your benefits, reasons or benefits to using to conversing with others? And any good or bad experiences you want to share? Um, Okay, I see something in the chat. Expanded knowledge, building rapport. Excellent, Alex. It's definitely, expanding knowledge, building rapport, any good or bad experiences. And if some of you just want to reflect on some of your clients and what their experiences have been because you don't want to self-reflect, that's totally fine because the goal is for us to, how do we translate this to our individuals that we are supporting, right? So some benefits are, like Alex mentioned, building rapport and trust, right? So we want to ensure that we're able to, when we're having these conversations, maybe with our peers, our work, we're trying to build that rapport. Some of us are trying to connect on a professional level. Maybe a case manager is communicating with a vocational specialist or job coach or the clinician, the therapist is coordinating services with the job coach regarding the client, right? So modeling pro-social behavior. So for clients struggling with social anxiety, communication deficit, or poor boundaries, we as mental health providers or the clinicians, our ability to maintain a balanced reciprocal conversation serves as a direct observable model for appropriate social interaction. So we're also able to empower our clients in that sense. Okay, I see, Christy. It makes the work more pleasant, enjoyable when you are connected with your coworkers. I agree. So, also empowerment and social integration. So, conversational fluency is critical for supported employment, supported education, and community integration with our clients that we serve. By practicing and improving this skill, clients gain confidence in advocacy, job interview, and friendship, right? So, what are some of our good experiences that, or our clients' good experiences around conversing with others? What has clients reported to you, if any?
I just talked to a client yesterday whose goal is to get full-time employment somewhere that they are volunteering at, and they said that their boss doesn't think that they're ready for that yet. She doesn't think she's ready for that either, but I talked with her and I told her that I think it's a good idea to speak with her boss and ask exactly what her boss is looking for in her to be ready. And she said, I think that's a great idea and that she wants to do that. And I think that that will be helpful for her going forward as she pursues that.
Excellent. So, what you're sharing, Alex, is that you were able to have an open, honest conversation with your clients, and through that, she was able to, self-reflect, assess to see whether she's ready for the next step of her job responsibility, and how she is able to use that information to be able to speak to her boss. And I think that was excellent because it sounds like you have a good rapport with her and trust. So she's able to, share that information with you. And she was able to receive what you shared with her. So being able to, that's that open dialogue. And I see Holly said, hearing other story can be inspiring. Absolutely. Holly, do you want to elaborate? You could feel free to unmute if you wish. So I would say some of the good experiences with as clinicians is de-escalation, right? So being able to use calm, measured conversational pacing and tone to quickly de-escalate a client in crisis, preventing injury or hospitalization, right? So some of our clients who have, if some of you have worked in like day programs before where there's crisis happening, you know that when a client is screaming and yelling, all of that, and you're going to probably yell back and say, "Stop! What you're doing is wrong." Oh, it's not going to go well, right? It's going to only go downhill. So, however, by using a calm tone, giving them simple directions of what you want to do in a very trusted voice, it will help de-escalate that, right? So Holly puts, oh, it's very loud here. Just that hearing about others working. Oh, no worries, Holly. I understand. I meant to say, I understand if some of you cannot unmute because you're sharing space and, or, your colleagues are working in the background. I totally understand. So also discovery, so employing open-ended questions and active listening to uncover any major unmentioned barriers. So these are all ways. And some of the bad experiences can be us misinterpreting either our clients' silence as not being, or them feeling that we're either being too pushy or we're trying to have them talk, but they could be having going through something. And sometimes also when the client it's not making eye contact, depending on the client's culture, it's not that the client may be, you know, dismissive of what you're saying to them. So we just want to be able to assess what's going on in that context. So now with everything we've just discussed, I want us to let's step into the shoes of the individuals that we support, of our consumers. What do you think their experience have been around conversing with others, good and bad? Has any of you had a client come and say, I just don't want to talk. I don't, anytime I speak or have a conversation, it doesn't go well. So because of that, nobody wants them around in a social setting. Any experiences, positive or not positive? It could be around work or just family, friends. Anyone? All right, maybe we could talk about that later. And if someone is typing in the chat, no problem. Um, I could always come back to that. So now the first behavioral step is choosing topics for conversation, right? So choosing topics for conversation is something that our clients or consumers can talk about with others that the person they are speaking with is interested in. So in a in an environment that is suitable. So you don't want to talk about too much of a personal thing at work, right? So some people may have inappropriate conversations, and the colleagues may feel very uncomfortable. So being able to support our clients or consumers on how to choose a topic to have a conversation in an appropriate place. So if it's work, there's sometimes work, yes, you could talk about certain things. Some people may talk about their pets. Those are appropriate. But when it goes into maybe complaining about personal life, boyfriend, or all of these things over and over again can make it an uncomfortable environment for their colleagues. So we want to be mindful about. So, what is the topic for conversation? Has anybody here supported their client in how to have a conversation? If yes, what did it look like? And feel free to unmute. I know sometimes you want to be able to share, but it's a lot to type. And for those of you who can't, I understand. So the first one I want to say is conversation is reciprocal dance, right? It's a monologue. It's not a monologue. I mean, clients who struggle with social skills often dominate the conversation with topics only interesting to them. So like their hobbies, some clients may not talk too much, but when you talk about video game, maybe Mario, oh my God, they will take the conversation away and you'll be like, wow, I didn't know he could talk this much, right? So one of the benefits is that we want to be teaching our clients to select topics that are mutually accessible to not just what they want to talk about, but what others are also interested in. It's important because it gives that, you know, uh, fair exchange. It's the person is also be able it's going to be able to show interest, right? And it will just be a one-way conversation. Another one is being able to establish and maintain social context and boundaries. So topics must be appropriate for the setting, relationship, and timing, right? So again, we've talked about this a few minutes ago where we want to support our clients in what topics that are appropriate for work and what topics are not appropriate for work. So a conversation with a boss requires a different conversation with your a different topic versus your peer, right? We want them to be able to understand that. And the too much too soon barrier. So our clients and our consumers with poor social boundaries have difficulty reading cues, like someone's facial expression to see, this is too much, or oh, I'm uncomfortable. Some of our individuals we know they don't make not all of them have that, you know, not all of them are able to identify those social cues. So some of them may be talking about explicitly about their political views or certain topics that can make other people uncomfortable, right? So the benefit to being able to train our individuals on what topics are too much, what is too soon to share, right? So topics we want to have a safety net. So it teaches them to start with safe, shallow topics that everybody can it's harmless, right? So when we talk about the weather, it's harmless, right? You could say it's too hot for me and it's too cold for me. That is just everyone's opinion. It doesn't directly negatively impact anyone for saying, oh, I think today is too hot, while the other person says, I think today is too cold. Um, we also want to think of the results to this. It prevents them from inaccurately violating social norms, right? And people are like, oh, stay away from John. He will make you uncomfortable. I don't like talking to him, right? It will be, again, the balance. So the next one is reflect emotional regulation and self monitoring. So the topic a client select often shares as a reflection of their current mental or emotional state. So some of our clients may talk about if they're not doing well, It may focus on their mental health, or depending on what a topic that someone is talking about, could trigger a reaction in them. So it's also important for us to, if a client is highly stressed or anxious, um, they may want to automatically just talk about all the problems that's happening. So being able to learn how to choose a topic would help them with emotional regulation, right? And the result is to demonstrate maturity and self-control, because that's very important in work. Anybody, any thoughts? Anybody has anything to share around this topic, around this choosing the topics for conversation? And it also has that direct link to practical goals, like the individual's educational and employment goals. So in a setting like job interviews or networking events, the topic is controlled and it's essential for self-advocacy. So you're empowering them with those skills that when they go into professional settings, they're able to clearly stay on topic or focus on what the topic on a hand is. Okay, Alex said, if I know my people's interests, I try to ask them about them if I can tell that they are stressed out. That is very good, Alex, that you're having your, when you notice that your individuals are feeling stressed, you have them talk about topics that's interesting to them, right? So it has to maybe do with their hobbies or things that they like to kind of help reduce that stress. I think that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. So demonstrating interest. So how do we demonstrate interest? Right? How do our individuals know how to demonstrate interest? Some of them would just be nodding heads. So I remember working in a day program, and the clients will, some of the issues, or the client's getting very upset because he feels like his friend is ignoring him today. And you're like, how, what do you mean by that? Well, when I'm talking, he's not looking at me, he's working. And when you ask the friend, why ignoring your friend? He said, I'm not ignoring him. I can still hear him, but I'm not looking at work. Right. So it's like one person misinterprets it as that. But demonstrating interest is in what other people are saying, are behaviors that show others that we are interested, right, in what they're actually saying. And that matters to us. The way someone is shows us that they're having that eye contact. So in the picture on this slide, you see the ladies look like they're all interested in whatever good topic that you're talking about. So there are verbal and nonverbal ways that we can demonstrate that we're interested in a topic. So we want to be able to help our individuals identify what the verbal and nonverbal cues are when showing interest. What are the verbal and nonverbal actions that can suggest someone? So, what are some verbal and nonverbal actions that would show that someone is paying attention, is interested in what you're saying? What would you say are some verbal ways and nonverbal ways? So, I would say, okay, we have some stuff in the chat. Ask related questions. So active listening, reflective listening, reciprocation, excellence. Yes, these are all ways that someone can show that they're paying attention to what you're saying. So, what does demonstrating interest in a topic mean? So, what that means is that actively showing the speaker through your words, your body language, that you are listening, processing, engaged. That this to sometimes we're nodding, we're leaning, we're in, we're smiling, right? Having that two-way exchange, not just one person talking and like, yeah, 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 right? It's like, okay, you're actually both enjoying this conversation. So and what are some of the benefits in demonstrating interest in a topic during a conversation? So it builds that rapport again and connection. So it's showing interest makes the speaker feel validated, right? There also encourages the person to keep, the conversation to keep going. It also reduces misunderstanding of the person maybe not being interested. So if the person is nodding, respond using reflective listening, the other person can observe and say, wow, John is actually listening, or Mary is actually paying attention, but they may not say it, but they can feel it, and it helps the conversation keep going, right? So it improves perception of competence. So what that means is the professional or social setting demonstrating interest makes the client appear more focused, thoughtful, and socially competent, right? So, how do we assess that someone is demonstrating interest in the topic during a conversation, right? How do we demonstrate um, that someone is actually in the conversation? If the nonverbal cues are um, body language, which is uh, eye contact, the person's posture, either leaning in, facial expression. So some facial expression and body language gives off a lot, right? We can read a lot from the body language. It minimize minimal distraction, that the person is not like on the phone, which sometimes when we meet even with our clients, some of them you may be speaking with them, but they're also on their phones. Some verbal cues is that the person is asking clarifying question to ensure that, maybe to help you clarify some of the points you've made. They may validate, oh yeah, that's true, I know, those things, or summary or reflective listening. So these are all ways that someone can demonstrate that they're actually interested in the topic. So now let's translate it with our consumers that we are working with. What are some of the ways you've observed that how do you determine that they're actually interested in what you're doing with them? Listening, or either listening to maybe you're planning what you're going to do for the day with them. Um, what are some of the things you've observed? Because some of them may be on their phone and they'll tell, yeah, yeah, I'm listening. What are some of the things you've observed or you observe among your clients? That shows. But okay, so if they're, I would say for a client that it's was in the session before, they return the next session with the completed items that you asked them to do, right? That's like wow, because that's you can see it that wow, yeah, they're actually doing that, participating. So changing a topic. So conversation has several parts to it. So there is the starting the conversation, the other part is changing the topic, and the third part is ending the conversation. So changing the topic is the skill of changing the topic is taught to give our clients or consumers control over the social flow. So what this is, it's vital because it helps with emotional regulation and boundary setting. Because sometimes if someone is saying something that is so hurtful to them or something that they're not interested in, they're able to take charge to be able to find a way to change the topic, right? Because if someone is speaking about a topic that's a trigger for them, then how do they navigate through that, right? To not sound impolite or dismissive. So the goal of this teaching this behavior to help our client confidently and politely redirect conversations that are necessary, ensuring that they still may have that social interaction and maintain positive, balanced, goal directed, set. So they're not being they don't want to impose on others, and nobody imposes on them in the sense of the type of conversation the person may be having with them. So identify when to change a topic, right? What are some of the ways we can identify when to change a topic? So there are two ways when we can identify to change a topic. The first one is identifying signs that it's time to leave or to change the topic. So, for example, some reasons to change a topic may include that the topic is complete and stalling. So person is just over and over again talking about it. So nonverbal include long, awkward silences, right? Have you experienced those before? So the listener is looking away, they're checking on their phone, their watch. So the verbal would be the listener providing very minimal responses, like, yeah, yes, okay, right? Those, it's just to show that the person is like not interested anymore. They're looking to move away from the topic. And the topic becomes uncomfortable and inappropriate. So, nonverbal fidgeting, shifting posture, crossing arms, or tense. It's something like that topic is uncomfortable and inappropriate. So, the action that the person is responding to um, in terms of uncomfortable and inappropriate conversation, facial expression, maybe stiff or with a frown. So if someone has experienced like in a conversation where the topic is unproductive and negative, some of the verbal response may be here, it would include shaking, deep frowning, or aggressive eye contact. So the verbal part would be the listener keeps contradicting or arguing with the client, or their voice gets louder and sharper, right? Any examples? Anybody want to share an example in a time if they have had this experience with either a client? I know for confidentiality, we're not looking for a specific name of the client, but you can just give a vague example that doesn't directly link to any specific person in your caseload. So another one is we want to be able to say how to move from one topic to the next, right? So first, the way we want to be able to empower our clients to be able to acknowledge. So briefly validate um, the last thing thank the speakers that was to show your listening. So we want to encourage them to ensure that they're validating the person and to respond to the last thing the person, whoever was speaking. So, for example, I understand that was really frustrating, right? That I understand that was really frustrating. And how do we bridge? So the next step is bridging that. So use a neutral transitional phrase to create a link between the old topic and what you're going to transition into. So I know for our clients, there may be challenges being able to teach them this skill, right? So how can we simplify this for them? Alex says, sometimes I have to work with people who aren't residents, and when they get aggressive, I just inform them that the conversation has moved away from what I'm willing to engage with, and I walk away. That is very good, Alex. So you sounds like you have a very like goal like direct way of dealing with when a situation is not going to be pleasant. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else has anything to share in the chat? So so when we're teaching our to acknowledge, and we also want them to bridge. So and the final one, we want to be able to help them shift away. So introduce the new topic using an open-ended question. So some people don't like that. It's like when you're like they know you're not going to engage in that conversation, or you want to move away from it. So some of our clients, they want to keep going back to it because they want to understand what's, like either they have a very confrontational way of dealing with having a conversation, or some of them just don't have the skills. They're not just equipped with the skills too. Any questions? Any inputs? So I have a question for everybody. If you can unmute and you could please put in the chat, what are some of the barriers you think what are some of the barriers you think you may encounter trying to teach your clients or your consumers the skill conversing with others? What are some of the challenges you think you may encounter around this skill with them? Like, you know, teaching them these skills. Okay.
I think that it's easy to uh, be like, hey, this is what you should do, but not being able to see it in practice is hard because you can't like coach somebody Or at least for me, there's no opportunity to coach somebody through a real conversation. It's just like, this is how this should go. But when they're actually in it, you're not a resource.
I get what you mean. And Alex, you try role playing where you role play different scenarios with them, where you say, I am, this is how it's going to look like. This is the scenario now. Don't look at me as your, clinician or your job coach or your counselor at this time. Right now, I'm looking at, let's say, if it was someone bothering them at work. Let's look at you are trying to speak to me, the person that's bothering you. How would you say it?
I think
Right?
I think
Have
that
you?
that works better in a room full of strangers than it does with somebody that you have rapport with because you are already comfortable talking to the person that you have rapport with. But in a room full of strangers, you still get some of that like anxiety that you would in a conversation with somebody that you don't talk to as much or that it's more realistic outside of a rapport space, in my
I
opinion.
Yeah, I get what you mean because when I did work at, there were some times I would have a colleague that the client didn't, come in and role play that with them, and it wouldn't be me. So I see what you mean, and you're right about that. Even though we're saying, look at me as this, right? Hypothetically, they still have that rapport with you, so it still doesn't. It's so what I'm hearing is not as effective if it was a complete stranger. But I would say, excellent, thank you. That was a great point, and I see, Christy, do you want to unmute and elaborate?
I just think if you're at the role playing stage, um, you know, like putting them in a situation where they'd have more anxiety. I mean, I find professionals have a difficult time role playing. Like they don't want to be on the spot, right? And
Right.
so, and I always, when I'm with clients and role playing, I always am them first, right? I have them be the other person, so that they can, so that I'm role modeling it first before I have them exchange roles and then have them try. But having that feeling of psychological safety when you're still learning the skill, I think is really important. Rather than just trying to throw them into the deep end right from the beginning.
I agree. Thank you so much, Christy. You're right. So being able to assess their comfort level with that skill and also not just throwing them, like you said, in it and without preparing them for it, because then maybe that may make it not a positive experience for them, right? And they may not want to ever attempt this skill again, right? So I do agree. So is that, so Christy, what I'm understanding is having a gradual process to get them, eh, you know, to learn the skill compared to just throwing them into the deep end to figure it out, right? Something like
Right.
that.
I
Okay.
mean, yeah, because and they're gonna. I mean, they'll have the opportunities to be sort of you know, in the moment, where they actually have to sort of test their ability when they're in that situation. Um, and I mean, and so I think working on those, sort of being able to regulate yourself, like, sort of tools for um, sort of coping in the moment with anxiety around using the skills that we're talking about, I think is also important
Okay.
like kind of monitoring their breathing and don't stop breathing like when you're in that situation, like asking for help, those kinds of things that make them really anxious. I think, and maybe have them practice in a setting that's not a work setting, you know like
Yeah.
with my own child, like like would have them, you know, in a restaurant, go up to the counter to ask for something, go ask for a packet of ketchup or, you know what I mean? Like, to practice, in a sort of at a low, like they may never see that person again. So it doesn't matter how it goes. If it doesn't go well, it's like low risk. Um,
Right.
so maybe doing that also with like having them practice in a setting that's not a work setting, but still a situation where they might want to start a conversation or, you know, figure out how to change a topic.
Thank you so much, Christy, for these strategies and for this input. That's excellent. Thank you. And I also wanted to ask everybody how comes more the consumers under your caseload. How would you rate their confidence or ability to converse with others? Would you consider them more reserved, or do you think that they're pretty good? I mean, confident with interacting with other people other than you. Like, what have you observed? Okay, I see something in the chat. Not confident at all. So yeah, some okay. So not everybody has. So I got in the chat, Christy, not confident at all. So does that, would you say that hinders them from getting employment or presenting their qualification at a job interview? Because they may know what to say, but it's just that because they're not used to communicating. Okay, Holly said a huge range, some very confident, some very reserved. All right, so that's interesting. So some people would, is it also, remember in the beginning we talked about, are you confident or comfortable with, having a conversation with others? And some people say it varies. Do you see that same in your individuals, that it varies as well for them? Like you observe that they're very comfortable with, maybe family, friends, or with you. However, when you take them to meet employers, they're more like scared. Holly said yes. Okay, that's very interesting. And what do you think is happening? Is it because, like, to Christy's point, is it because they have not been probably exposed to those environments and it's new?
I think, like I said, like those kinds of situations are sort of higher risk in their estimation, which I mean, I think it is, right? Like you're just conversing, with some stranger at the park versus like I'm trying to get this job or trying to, you know, need, ask for help from my supervisor with a conflict or, those kinds of things are, more anxiety producing.
That's so true. Thank you. And it's true. It depends with our clients. So some of them, they also may either have bad experiences, and I've come to realize another thing is that they may not have, that may be hindering them from having that skill of conversing with others, is that they have either family members, friends, or service providers all usually do the communicating for them, right? So they're so used to us just doing the talking that sometimes they don't have that, they don't get the opportunity to build that skill. So the next one is concluding a conversation. So the purpose of concluding a conversation, we know, is to, at some point when we're having a conversation, the conversation does come to an end. So in the context of the individuals that we support, it's maybe at work, they're at lunch, right? And some of them are just so enjoying their conversation with their colleagues at their lunch break that they forget that they have to return back to work. So they're late for lunch from their lunch, right? So being able to help them on that, the conversation does come to an end, is to be able to transform an anxiety inducing situation into a manageable process. So either sometimes we also, not only that sometimes the conversation may be uncomfortable, that they may have to end the conversation in order to leave out of that place. So they're not stuck in a conversation they may not want to have. So one is to empower them that, okay, time wise, maybe if in work, we have to get back from lunch, or to empower them to almost like advocate for themselves. Like, I don't want to talk about this, anymore. I want to move on to, what I need to do. So mastering the appropriate concluding behavior is critical for our clients, is because it reduces interpersonal damage, right? So what does that mean? So if they actually just get up and walk away, the person is, like, they don't want to be rude, or so finding a way to do things. So teaching a graceful conclusion of helps, so they still get to maintain that positive relationship, and also prevent them from being in a social isolation, situation and not be able to, and also damage ties. So being able to conclude a conversation well, it's beneficial to our clients. So completes the behavioral change. So for our client that we're working with, and social skills is important. So I'm sure most of you have heard that our clients that we support have the technical skills to do the work, but the areas that they struggle around is those that social skills aspect, right? So mastering the final step also reinforces the entire conversational skill set of, and finally boundary setting. So they're able to set boundaries. Like if someone is being maybe verbally abusive or saying things to them that they are not, they're able to say, okay, I need to go now, or something like that. Some of our clients may walk away because they just can't. Either they walk away or they may react negatively. So we want to find a way to give them that balance. So this is a simple step called is strategy called S.T.E.P by that was created by Dr. Osler in her curriculum, soft skill teaching curriculum around the conversing with others. When you're concluding a conversation, we want to teach them these this strategy called S.T.E.P. So S means signal that it's time, you have to leave soon, and T is thanking the person that they're having the conversation with. E is ending on a positive note, and P is you know maybe they'll plan for a future, or maybe I'll see you at lunch tomorrow, or something like that, right? So finally, I just have these brief, scenarios where we're going to have a discussion around. If anybody that would like to read is fine. You could unmute and read, but if you don't, it's okay. I can read it and we could all discuss it. So the first one is around choosing topics for conversation. So the scenario is Sarah is meeting her new volunteer coordinator, Mr. Perez, for the first time. She wants to make a professional impression, but feels nervous and starts rambling about her complicated commute. So, what topic can Sarah choose as a conversation starter with, I'm sorry, Mr. Perez in this case, to kind of reduce? So, she's there. So what could Sarah talk about? What topic can she choose? Here she's talking about commuting, but the key is Sarah is meeting her new volunteer coordinator for the first time. So maybe what would be a topic that maybe Sarah could talk to Mr. Perez about? So maybe I would say Sarah can choose a topic around what volunteer opportunities are there available, right? So volunteer role, excellent. Thank you, Christy. So volunteer role, volunteer opportunities, like anything that aligns with her skill set or her interests. So those are all topics that Sarah could choose. So demonstrating interest in what others are saying is the second. If there's anything closer to her, excellent. That's very good, Alex. That's a good point. So she could talk about to see if there are any other volunteer opportunities that are closer to her, right? Because when she came in, she was talking, rambling about her commute. So maybe somewhere she can get to that's less stressful, and her commute is not as bad as the getting to where the location he is. So demonstrating interest in what others are saying is the scenario is David is speaking with his colleague Lisa, who is describing a new software update for their project. Lisa speaks quickly and uses a lot of technical terms. David is following, but Lisa seems unsure if he is engaged. How can David show Lisa that he is interested in what she's saying? So, what are some of the things? Okay, excellent. I see something in the chat. Summarize what he said, she said. Excellent. Repeat back. So, what I heard you say, or ask questions about what she said. Very good. So, these are all ways that David could show that he's interested in what Lisa is saying. All right. So, we have two more, and I think we're almost done. So Maria, this is changing the topic. Anybody wants to volunteer to read this? It's fine. I don't mind, but I just wanted to give if anybody wanted to. Do. Okay, so Maria is at a casual meeting with a mentor, Mr. Johnson, discussing her career goals. Mr. Johnson has spent the last 5 minutes talking about his favorite 1980s wrestling history, a topic completely irrelevant to Maria's career questions. How can Maria politely switch the topic to focus on her career goals without making Mr. Johnson feel rude or dismissed? So what can Maria do to draw it back to her goals and not Mr. Johnson's wrestling, 1980s wrestling? Okay. Or ask about what okay, that's hard. What, Christy, do you want to share?
Oh, just it's delicate to sort of diplomatically try and switch to.
I know. So I think in this case, I guess she could have him have his, rest topic because at some point it's gonna die down. So maybe she could ask, maybe uh, something about her career goal. So like jump in and say, oh, yeah, the wrestling, like you could use the wrestling and then bridge, right? That what we talked about bridging, and maybe insert something about her career goals in there, right? So I see Holly said, tell him she would be willing to discuss this later, but wants to respect everyone's time and bring the topic back to her focus. That's a good one. And Alex said, this is a casual conversation. So maybe ask if they could schedule time to specifically talk about her goals. Excellent. So these are all, excellent examples that Maria can employ to, you know, transition her boss back to her focus. But I could also understand what Christy is saying, it being hard because that's her boss. I mean, that's her mentor. And she's, she doesn't want to sound like she's being rude or dismissive. And oh, I'm sorry. Finally, concluding a conversation. So the scenario is a consumer, Alex, has been discussing housing options with a case manager, Ms. Awad, for 25 minutes. All necessary forms have been signed and the next steps are clear. Alex tends to linger, leading to unnecessary small talk. How can Alex initiate a polite definitive end to the professional meeting? What should Alex do? Typical Alex. That's a good one, Alex. Alex, what would you do? Thank them for their time. Thank you, Christy. Yes, thank the person for their time. So how can I? Excellent. So thank them so much for their time and for their willingness to help or, anything. That's very good. Very good. So any questions? Any questions? Any comments? And I would if everybody could please stay on because I would like to put in the training PowerPoint in the chat so you can access it on us directed. So I just want to make sure that everybody has a copy of it. So we have probably going to finish a little like 5 minutes. But anybody has any comments, any final thoughts, questions?
Do you have any other kinds of handouts or um, like the S.T.E.P, handout that kind of breaks things down into um,
The step handout, I don't, I what I can do is I can create it for you because I have it in the PowerPoint, but I can try to put something together. And also, so it comes in a whole curriculum. And I put
mm,
Dr. Janice Osler's information. So you're more than free to reach out to her for the whole curriculum. And it breaks it step by step because it's done with clients individuals, either clients or consumers, in a group setting. So this curriculum can be done in a group setting where you're teaching the client. So there's the step which breaks it down one into several different steps. So, for example, I have her contact information. So if you did email her and tell her that you're interested, if she's willing for you to get a copy of the curriculum and she emails it to you, it's like long, it's like 30 or 40 pages, but I
Oh,
broke up this 90-page session just to give you
mhm.
more informational. But I don't
It'd just
mind.
be nice to have other ones where, like for the other parts of conversations, to like how to initiate, some ideas or steps to that, or, what I mean? May not
Right,
be STEP, might not be the acronym, but you know what I'm saying?
right. So, Christy, so when you get the curriculum, you get worksheets with it.
Oh,
So
okay.
the actual worksheets, you would be able to give them worksheets on how to identify when to choose the topics. So it's a whole like package, but
Gotcha.
it's not, you don't have to pay for it. It's
Oh, okay.
free. Yeah, no, so you just
Oh,
email her for permission to use it.
oh, okay. That would be awesome.
Yes, yes, yes. But I could also reach out to her and ask, and then if she gives permission, then I'll share it with you.
Well, that'd
If
be great if other
yeah,
people are interested in it besides me.
yes, and you could put your if you want to put your email. I don't know. You could put. I would say the best way is maybe you emailing her directly, but I'm gonna reach out to her just because I said you could put your email in the chat, but I'll email her too.
Okay.
So I could also because I'm gonna also forward the materials to the sponsor of this training.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So no problem. Yeah, because you get a whole like worksheets that come with it. And you can, if you wanted to do a little group with your individuals, you can. Anybody else have any questions, comments? So this is an overview of the curriculum. It's it's if we were going to do it, it requires like active like group work and would need like about 2 to 3 sessions. Yeah, it's long. It's just broken down into like giving you like an overview of it. Okay, Christy? But I will reach out to Dr. Osler. So thank you. So conversing with others, so we focus on those 4 critical skills those behaviors like choosing topic, demonstrating interest, changing a topic, and concluding a conversation are what we consider 4 key skill behaviors around conversing with others. So, which is to equip our clients of the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in both social and employment setting or any setting that they are in. So if you have any questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can put the PowerPoint slides in the chat. And also, I'm going to share the link to the survey. If you could please complete the survey, please provide us with feedback. So it helps us to be able to improve on the materials the trainings we present to you. And also, I'm also going to put in the chat, just hold on 1 minute to add the slides in there so you can have them. But I'm also going to email it over. Let's see. Okay. It should let me know if you got both the link to the survey and also the okay. Thank you, Danielle, and the slides in PDF format. And then I'm going to email about those of you who are interested in getting the whole curriculum to have the materials and all. But I have to reach out to the creator of it. Any questions? You're so welcome, Alice. Thank you so much for your active participation throughout. And I just want to say Thank you so much, everyone. We finished, I think, almost 10 minutes early, but I just want to say thank you, Christy. Thank you for your participation. Thank you. Have a great day and have a great rest of your week. Thank you, Amber. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Patricia, Brandy. You're so welcome. I hope to see you in future trainings. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, Brett.